We are at the Washington State Convention Center for probably the biggest event of the year, Emerald City Comic Con, or as I like to call it, with great respect, admiration, and affection, Nerd Fest 2019. It's huge, and it's in more than one venue now. It's not just at the convention center, it's down at the Hyatt Regency Hotel too, but the big thing here, of course, is the show floor, and we are about to enter. This is where you'll find all the vendors, artists and publishers, people with video games, people with stuff to sell, and a lot of people looking to buy too. And I already spotted something I like because I am a fan of The Walking Dead. And I see some art over here that I want to get a picture of.
It's going.
That's what you'll see a lot of too, is not just games and comic books and things to buy, but a lot of art. And of course a lot of people in costume. The entrance to the show floor is the Pacific Northwest R2D2 Builders Club, and as you can see, they are not only very sophisticated, this one's even playing their favorite song.
Is she a 90s?
I'm sure you recognize this guy, R2D2, and this is just one member of the Pacific Northwest R2D2 Builders Club, and he belongs to Ryan Rorick. Ryan, you're from Mercer Island.
I'm from Mercer Island.
What made you decide, I want to build me the most sophisticated remote-controlled robot anybody's ever seen?
I wanted a project I knew I wouldn't give up on. I've built a lot of little robots in the past, and they've kind of sit on the shelf. So I wanted something I could take out and have fun with and improve on, and what's a better project than R2 for that? So
yeah, why not? And why R2D2?
R2D2, he's the iconic droid. I mean, when you think of a droid, you know, he's the first one you think of. So yeah, got to be R2.
Not C-3PO?
Not C-3PO. 3PO is more man than machine, I think. I don't know.
And probably easier to move around when you don't have to create one that walks on its own.
That's right, yeah. Well, and there's lots of 3POs, but you got to be really thin. And yeah, that's just not going to work for me. So.
Me neither, brother. Not even close. Unless they make them a little bit larger. They make them in triple X.
Triple X.
I am all set.
Yeah.
So tell me, if you would, a little about what goes into building this guy.
So there's various ways to make them. There's some here. I mean, if you look at all these droids,
they all look like droids, but some are built out of wood, some are built out of aluminum, some are built out of styrene. So there's various ways to make them. Mine's all aluminum, so he's rather heavy. Sucks if he falls over. It's not good. But yeah, there's a R2 Builders Club. It's astromech.net. We do part runs there, so like complicated parts like this, you can buy online.
Okay.
Other parts you can make yourself fairly easily. There's plans and schematics for everything out there. But yeah, there's a great system and network of people that know how to do this and can help people do them. So.
How long did it take you?
About 3 years.
Wow, yeah. 3 years?
3 years. And they're never done, you know, there's always, you take them out to places like this and something's gonna break. So you take them home, you fix them, you add stuff to them, and yeah.
What's your wife think about all that?
She likes it. She's a big fan of it. So
you lucked out.
Yeah, I know. We're working on a second droid, and so hopefully we'll have you know, husband and wife droids.
Oh my god, so is it going to be similar body style to R2D2?
Yes, he's going to be similar. He's going to be have that kind of head on him. So yeah.
So like, let's see how good my memory is. Like an R2D4,
R5,
R5,
yeah.
D4. I can't remember.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so R5s are the hexagon-ish type head. The cone heads are R4s. The R3s are the clear domes. And then everybody knows R2.
Of course, of course. So, how functional is he? Like, what kind of things can he do?
So he drives around. His arms open. His dome opens. If you want to get video of this.
Yeah, let me take a look here. And it's got a little smoke machine in it. That is pretty cool. So that means he needs a break for a while?
Yeah, taking a break. Let's see how to get him back on. There we go. And he's got a cool little display in here if you want to, inside his eye there.
Oh, check that out. If you look, you can see the plans to the Death Star. That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, there's no end to the creativity of builders.
So tell me a little bit about the Builders Club. Like, how did you guys get started?
There's an online one that's international. There's hundreds of these droids international. The Pacific Northwest Builders Club, just a loose connection of droids within Washington, Idaho, and Oregon. Typically we'll go to conventions, fairs, state fairs. Washington State Fair will be there as well. So some school events, but yeah.
So I'm guessing R2 doesn't eat a lot of Fisher scones at the fair.
Yeah, that's right. That sounds good though. His
I'm
owner,
ready too.
however.
I'm ready too. That's the company that started my station. So,
oh, fun.
Yeah, Como used to be a Fisher station, and so Fisher scones are in the Puyallup Fair, part of the family. Now I get to add R2D2 to the mix, which is always good. Well, Ryan, I appreciate the tour. Thanks
you're welcome.
for that.
Thank you.
You're not going to try to take my cell phone, are you? It only calls on this planet.
R5. I really want to like that.
Uh-oh. Authentic to the last. You probably recall R2D4 from Star Wars A New Hope. He just blew his top just like he did at Luke Skywalker's farm. Alright, I'm about to get a Como exclusive one-on-one with R2D2. Buddy, you having a good time at the convention? Oh, that's good. You're getting an awful lot of attention. No, it's good. Everybody loves you. They're having a great time. They love taking pictures with you. Do you like taking the pictures? I know sometimes it can be kind of a pain when everybody wants your attention, but you've been a really good sport about it, and we all appreciate it. Thanks, buddy. Another really popular room is this one right here, what's known as Artist's Alley, where you can find all kinds of people who draw whatever comic you like or books that they've written. It's a good opportunity for fans to actually interact with the people whose work they've been reading all this time. And you see it's a big draw. So my daughter will appreciate this. She is a big fan of Rick and Morty. We see some Rick and Morty comics here. And we're with the artist behind him, Mr. Kyle Starks.
The writer.
The writer,
and
the man.
occasional artist. That's me.
Tell me about what you do. Tell me about these books, Kyle.
Yeah, man, I've been getting to play with the Rick and Morty universe in comic form for almost 3.5 years now. I've done 33 issues, I think, maybe more. There are 31 episodes of the show, so I'm pretty stoked about that. I'm the longest tenured writer of the Rick and Morty comic book, obvious, and I'm the third most prolific artist, so I'm the Rick and Morty comic book guy.
Wow, that's amazing. How did you get into your art?
Well, I kind of did it forever. I took a long break in my 20s and some 30s, and I decided I was going to sort of knock out some comics when I started to have kids. And I did a book, I almost pointed out I'm sold out. I did a book called Sex Castle that was nominated for a bunch of awards, a comedy award. Once you do a book that's sort of universally recognized as funny, anyone who has a funny book will come to you. So I was super lucky because I'm a huge fan of Rick and Morty that they came and asked me to do it, and I've been on it ever since.
That's fantastic. Now, were you always drawing as a kid, or?
I think as a kid, and when I was a teenager, was the 90s, and comics were not very good then. So I sort of moved away from comics. I was going to be a fine artist. I was going to be a painter. And I took several years of fine arts schooling and realized that's the terrible idea. Got out of it and sort of worked blue-collar jobs for a long time. And like I said, I wanted to sort of knock things off. And I found I really loved it as an adult. So I've been doing it, making comics now professionally for 3 years.
So when you take it from that one level, your education or whatever you're doing, to the next, how do you make that move into the professional comic world?
I mean, getting professional is super difficult, obviously. It's a really difficult industry. You have to, it's freelance. You have to constantly be sort of being able to do work. I've been really lucky to be able to do Rick and Morty for as long as I have. I think it doesn't hurt that, I love the show and I'm pretty good at what I do. But yeah, being professional is hard, man. Like there's no sure way to do it. I wish there was, but you just have to kind of, a lot of lucky breaks,
All right, what else are you working on that's coming up?
Assassination actually just came out from Skybound. That's Robert Kirkman, Walking Dead's imprint from Image. Wow. It's about the world's 20 best hitmen sort of joined together to be bodyguards for another guy. It's fun, it's action, it's violent. With Eric Henderson, who did Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. So we're real proud of that. Just came out this week.
How's it selling so far?
As far as I know, good. It's only been out for a day. So hopefully really well is the answer.
This is a pretty good venue for putting stuff like that out there.
For sure, yeah. Emerald City's great. I'm happy to be here.
All right, very good. Kyle Starks, appreciate that. Thanks a bunch.
You guys love her, right?
You guys, I love you too. I really do. This is an amazing city. I'm telling you.
Is it? And you know what? We were talking about this backstage. No lie, you guys. We have had the best panel audiences. We were bragging about you guys. The questions have been awesome. So you were really in for a treat with this hour.
Very excited. Yes, we were raving. I was like, yes.
I'm like, they have it. So first of all, I absolutely love you. I think you're such an amazing actress.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. I love you.
Well, you know what? I just really, I just admire everything you stand for, everything you've embraced, and the characters you created. So we're going to talk about, of course, we're going to talk about Discovery. We're also going to talk about The Walking Dead. How could we not? But let's start off with Discovery. When you found out you were going to be cast as Michael, what was your reaction to joining this like Roddenberry universe?
Oh my gosh. Okay, it's hard for me to even explain my reaction, right? Because it was multi-layered. We were in Buenos Aires, actually, my husband and I, and we had come with friends, and our son was there with us and everything, and it had been kind of, there were conflicts with the casting because I was finishing up Walking Dead, which, just to set the record straight, I was already finishing Walking Dead. That was happening already. And then the door to Star Trek Discovery opened. And so then we get the call there, and we were walking along the streets of Buenos Aires like, what is happening? Is this real life, you know? But I was shocked. I was floored. I was overwhelmed. I was like, thank you, Jesus. I could not believe it. I could not believe that I was going from Walking Dead to Star Trek.
I mean, first of all, that was such an interesting transition because everybody was thinking Sasha's going to be gone, but and CBS was being super secretive, but there were all these rumors. So it's such an amazing situation to be in as an actor, but you couldn't really talk about it at the time.
Could not talk about it. And you certainly can't plan a situation like that.
No,
as an
never.
actor, right? And it was actually it was leaked. That's a little confession. It was leaked that I was leaving Walking Dead.
Yeah.
People weren't supposed to know that, but it was leaked that I was joining Star Trek. I can't remember exactly. The details are kind of fuzzy at this point, but it was leaked, and so that's why everybody was like, "Oh, you're leaving," and I was like, "Ah."
Yeah, no, I think there was like a footage clip that was leaked from Discovery or
gosh.
something. But
Yeah, it was
anyway,
something like that, but-
amazing situation. And Brian Fuller supposedly created the character based on some very iconic humans: Mae Jameson, Lee Bridges, and Nichelle Nichols' character Uhura.
Yeah.
So what is it like to have someone say, "I've created this character based on 3 extremely iconic and historically important women, and now go ahead and go play that."
Yeah, and now you do that. You go, no pressure. I actually, the very first person that I spoke to from the Star Trek camp was Brian Fuller. We had a sit down, and his passion and his fervor, he was so excited about it. He had such a distinct vision, and it roped me right in. And knowing that they were truly adamant about having a black woman at the helm of this franchise meant a lot to me. They were very adamant about it, and they
not
were
the
serious.
captain.
Exactly, and then having it from the vantage point of the first officer for the first time ever. But I was so excited about it because of course it means so much. I can talk all day about what that means. Obviously, we know how important representation is, and I talk about how I stand on Nichelle Nichols' shoulders all the time, but I also stand on Kate Mulgrew's shoulders. I also stand on Avery Brooks' shoulders. I stand on so many shoulders, right? We all do. And so I remember walking away from that meeting with him, and of course it didn't end up just as I was coming on and it was official. He was leaving, so I did get that moment with him, and then that ended up being the only thing I had with him, right? But I was thinking, man, this is going to be incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did you go about then once more of the character was revealed? I imagine you kind of have to put those pressures aside and just create the character based on your own artistry and stuff.
Yeah.
And how did you decide to create this human raised by Vulcans? Did you look to Leonard Nimoy's interpretation or Zachary Quinto or?
That's a great question. I love that question because I had this sort of macro perspective coming into it, just like sort of zoomed all the way out, seeing how important this was. You never can. I've said this before, but you can't define or predict impact as an actor. You know this so well, right? You don't know how something is going to impact people when you come on board. Pun intended. But in this case, I did know the impact because it's already been made, right? And so coming into it, seeing what God had done and how He had led me and how all roads had led to this and just how divinely things had worked out, I was thinking, oh my goodness, I have to do this story justice. I have to give it my all. This story has already changed the world, and we're trying to make it relevant today and move it forward. Oh my gosh, oh gosh. And so then I had my moment and I freaked out and I was overwhelmed and all of that in the privacy of my hotel room when we were in rehearsals for the first episode of season 1. And then I said, okay, I have to, okay, that's done. Now I have to focus.
I have to pack that away.
Exactly. I have to. I can't work. I can't be creative if I'm coming from this place of anxiety. It just doesn't work, right? So I put that all aside, and I was swallowing as fast as I could all the canon that I could.
Yeah.
Right. And I was playing it when I was sleeping, and trying to get it into my subconscious and everything. And then I said, okay, now I think it's time for me to dig into this story. Who is Michael Burnham? And so for me, of course, one of the cornerstones of Michael Burnham is that duality between humanity and Vulcan, right? And so that's where I started. And I did learn a lot from Leonard, right? Because TOS I love. It's actually my favorite after Discovery, of course. But I watched him a lot. And just being able to watch him knowing that that's my brother, knowing that that's where they placed me in the universe, I was so appreciative of the writers and producers for that. And so being able to watch Leonard, who is obviously one of the most iconic actors,
and
playing the most
genius.
iconic character in the canon, knowing that this is my brother, you know, and then imagining what it was like growing up and all of that. That's where I started. I started with what it means to be Vulcan. That's where I started.
That's good, because that's who's raising you.
Exactly. And so I learned about the world. I did a ton of research about what Vulcan, even what it looks like, what it feels like, the colors, the sounds, the personality traits, all of that, the education. I just dove right into that. And then I dove into the trauma.
Right.
That's where I went next.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, I mean, Michael has integrity, intense integrity, and even if it leads to court-martial, and that sort of story, how has that been exploring sort of that arc and that redemption?
Oh, gosh, it's one of my favorite things about Michael Burnham, because in this golden age of TV, where we have the most representation we've ever seen, and we have all of these strong women, what I love is that we have these women who are making deep moral mistakes. And I thought that was, I thought it was very compelling that that's where we started, is with Michael Burnham making this deep moral mistake and suffering the full consequences for it, right? And so after the trauma, I dug into the duty. And I dug into what it means to give your life to exploratory service, to military type service, to scientific discovery. And being able to make that kind of mistake and be sort of hated it's something, it feels risky, right? And you think, oh gosh, I'm this person who did this mutiny and who gets sentenced to life in prison, and you know, and so it seems daunting, right? But I really appreciated that journey, because having the rug pulled out from under you in a story and losing everything, having your entire life sort of just slip out of your fingers, that's a lot to dig into as an actor, right? And then and then having to sort of claw your way back, which Michael Burnham definitely did, claw your way back to redemption. And then knowing that at the very end of it, where we leave off at the end of season 1, you know, it's about forgiving yourself and everything, and it's kind of come full circle. Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and you exposed yourself to Ash, and you know, revealed you, and then of course the plot twist of him being a Klingon. What was that twist like for you, and when did you realize that was going to happen? Did you know from the beginning?
Oh man, I think yeah, we did know from the beginning, because Shazad, who is a beast of an actor, is he not? He gets on my nerves.
But you know what? Everyone on the show is so good.
Everybody is
so good.
Everybody is a beast, you guys. Everybody's so good and so gifted and so passionate, and so kind as well. Completely devoid of ego, you guys. But you know, we knew that this was going to happen. He knew that he was going to be, you know, sort of torn between two, you know, species, basically. But it was crazy to let go and let someone in that way as Michael, and then to have him be a Klingon who started this whole thing. Because if the Klingons hadn't killed my parents, none of this would happen. Right. I would not have been raised on Vulcan if it had not been for the murder of my parents by these Klingons. And then who do I fall in love with for the first time? The first time I've ever fallen in love with is a Klingon. And so it was kind of like, oh my goodness, my parents, what would my parents, it was so shameful. Right, as Michael. And then, you know, and then even in episode 11 of season 1, he calls me out. He says, you know, it's just because you fell in love with a Klingon, you know. So
and you can't say he's wrong.
And you can't. And so what it taught me as Michael, and as people as well, was about forgiveness, and was about, you know, forgiveness is not, people deserve it. People deserve forgiveness, and of course you deserve to forgive yourself, right? And you can't carry that kind of shame. It's too heavy for you, and it's not meant for you to carry. And if you fell in love, love never fails. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you can't, you know, it's not like my parents, you know, were rolling over in their graves. I fell in love. I opened my heart to someone, and him being Klingon ended up allowing me to finally heal in that way.
I think so, because you were still raw at the beginning of the show, you know, from that death informed the whole character, the parents' death, you know, so it was an interesting a storyline for sure. What has it been like to have Jonathan Frakes come back and direct Discovery?
Oh, I know we rave about Jonathan Frakes a lot, but I could go on and on and on about that man. From the very beginning, when he first came on, we were just, we were fanning out ourselves, right? This is Jonathan Frakes, like this is, and the way he was like Papa Bear, like he came in, he's so jolly, he's such a perfect director. He's that sort of actor's director that you love, who gets it, who speaks your language, but who also, he speaks everyone's language. Right, every aspect of production, he speaks every one of those languages. So, he's of course one of our favorites, but he sort of, he shepherded us. And he basically came and he gave us that context. It's like, oh wow, we're doing Star Trek, when suddenly you have Jonathan Frakes there.
And I think that it was wonderful that he was brought in, not only because he's a wonderful director,
Yes.
but because he has that history.
Absolutely.
And it sort of gave confidence in a way to the public perception.
It did, and it made us feel like everything was going to be okay. You know what I mean? He welcomed us into the family. He made that very clear, We were already working on becoming our own family, and that happened very quickly. I have to thank all of the cast and crew for that, because everybody's so genuine that we were able to become a family very quickly. But he said, we are a family. Star Trek is a family, and I was a family with my cast and crew as well. We still spend a lot of time together. Mm-hmm. We love being around each other, and so we welcome you guys.
That is awesome.
Welcome, and it felt so good. It was a big bear hug.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was exactly what we needed.
That's amazing. I love him. Let's talk about Walking Dead for just a minute.
Yes.
Sasha, she broke my heart, and she has had another one who had a real journey of disappointment and then redemption.
Absolutely.
But when you first joined the show, you actually didn't join as a series regular. You were just coming on and guest starring, and then that evolved, I think, season 4. So can you talk a little bit about your early days on The Walking Dead?
Y'all, I actually originally auditioned for Michonne. Some of you may already know this. And it was between me and Danai and one other woman, and they made the perfect choice with Danai, because how could she be any more brilliant? No, I don't think so. And then they actually brought me on. The showrunner at the time, Glenn Mazzara, he said, I really want to work with you. And so then, lo and behold, I was Tyrese's sister,
Which was not in the comics.
It was not.
It's that character originated for the series.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. And he said, I want to work with you, so I'm gonna find a way to get you on. And so he said, you know what, Tyrese can have a sister. And then that was that. And so I will forever be grateful to him for that. And it was only supposed to be a few episodes in season 3. And then they suddenly wanted me to be there for a little bit longer in season 4. And it just kept growing and growing and growing from there. And I certainly did not anticipate that. I actually thought I was going to end up on Once Upon a Time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that was all happening around the same time, and I thought I was going to end up on that show permanently.
Right.
And they were happening concurrently, and we were sort of waiting to hear from both, and we thought for sure we were going to move to Vancouver, and that was going to be that. And then at the last second, Walking Dead said, no, you're coming here, and you're going to stay here.
It's Atlanta for you.
Exactly, it's Atlanta, And then that was that, and it was a sort of like upward trajectory. It really was.
Well, Sasha she lost everyone she loved. She oh my gosh, it just was misery for her. And so how was that as an artist to go to work, in between, before she sort of befriended Rosario and decided on the plan for redemption? How was that to just be in that dark, sad place?
It's tough. Mm-hmm. It's tough, as you know. It's something that it's part of it, and you're more than willing to do it, but it does take a lot. It's a sacrifice in a way, right? Because of course, your body doesn't know the difference. That's just one example.
Right.
Your body doesn't know the difference. Your body thinks that you're in this tragic state. Oh gosh, we're dying. This is a frightening situation, and your body responds, right? And you find yourself, while you're in season, you can't really sleep that well. You're waking up out of your sleep like like this, because your body is like, responding to the story.
Fight or flight. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you're like, no, body, this is not, okay, calm down. I'm acting, body. I'm acting, right? But so in that way, you really do take it on, and you really do go through it. And there were days, to be honest, where I would say, I'd wake up and I'd say, oh man, here we go, my brother has died, and so-and-so has died, and and the world, is gone, and like, oh man, are we gonna survive? And okay, here we go. That would happen, a lot.
Right.
And then, especially being pregnant, I've talked about this before as well, that was a very...
You were pregnant all of season 5, right?
Yeah. And, there was a moment toward the end of season 5 when I had to admit to Father Gabriel that I want to die. And that was one of the hardest things I had done up to that point, because I was about, 7-8 months pregnant at that point, and it was like catching in my body to actually believe that, because that's how I work,
right?
That's how we all do it. You believe what you're saying,
right?
And so to say that and believe it, but to have this life inside of me, it was a lot.
That is, yeah.
It was very traumatizing to go through. But again, this is not complaining. This is this is what we do. This is what we love to do. It's what we feel that we are meant to do, and it's worth it. It's more than worth it.
It is more than worth it. And you're amazing.
Thank you.
You are. We're gonna take questions.
Mistake and how you got to explore that. And my partner and I just watched the episode where you find out what happened to Spock and Michael. And I wanted to know how long you knew specifically what had happened and how you incorporated that into all the scenes where you're talking about Spock, but you haven't found him yet, and you're going to have to face this soon.
Thank you for your question. That's an amazing question. I knew pretty early that I had broken him. That's what I was told. I was told that I had broken him. And so I had to create a very specific memory before I knew it on the page. And it led to everything, right? Because I say to Saru, and I think it was episode 5 of season 1, and it actually most of it ended up getting cut, but I say that I feel that I was some sort of agent of destruction, because I certainly felt that my parents, they died because of me, because I asked to stay to see the supernova. And then the Vulcan Learning Center was bombed. And there were Vulcan kids and teachers that died in that bombing. And they just were trying to get me, and so then that was on me. And then Giorgio, I felt responsible for that. And then knowing that I had broken Spock, I was responsible for that. And so this is a person who has a lot of shame. Like I was saying before, a lot of unforgiveness against myself, and a lot of shame. And what happens when you carry shame like that, and I can relate to this as Sonequa, I certainly have carried a lot of shame in my life and have had to heal from it, right? Shame, just what it does is it corrodes you on the inside, you know what I'm saying? Because it basically tells you that your self-worth, it speaks to your self-worth, unfortunately. When you carry shame. And so what's interesting is that the fire and ferocity of Michael Burnham rises up even still, because the shame will just like sort of push you down. And so there's this constant like trying to usurp my own shame all the time, and be this person and be right and be approved and be redeemed and all of that. You're constantly trying to rewrite your history, right? And so that is certainly something that it led to everything, and it was certainly part of the redemption that I'm so desperately seeking.
Thank you.
Thank you. So how would you describe your relationship with Spock now?
Well, now, y'all caught up?
Pretty much, right?
Well, I mean, y'all, dang. Like, he mad, gosh, I'm sorry. I was trying to save your life. Like, ugh. So, I mean, that's where we're digging in. That's where we are now. And I'm telling you, like, what I've said from the very beginning is that it's a very complicated relationship, and that we leave no stone left unturned. So please know that whatever you see from us, and you will see a lot from us from here on, we will earn it.
I love that.
Hey, Sonequa, Brian, from right up the road in Linwood.
Awesome.
And I have to tell you, you have absolutely been fantastic as Michael Burnham, but I know I'm not alone in this room when I say we love us some Sasha. And I know you've been asked this question before, but would you talk about, you know, Sasha's last stand, the lead up to that, how you prepped for basically working in an isolation booth and what was playing in the iPod and all of that stuff, and when are we going to see you on the sofa again with Chris Hardwick?
Oh, good questions.
That's true.
Y'all, I was so grateful. I say this all the time. I was very grateful for what I was given because I knew that I was leaving pretty early in the season. I sat down with the showrunner and I knew it was happening. But I didn't know how. All he told me was that it was going to be so sad but heroic. That's what he said. So when I read that script, I cried. I cried tears of joy. I really did, because I was so grateful that they gave me that. It was the perfect ending for Sasha because, like I said a moment ago, it was the pinnacle of the maturation. Because this was a person who was totally closed off, right? It was a coping mechanism, it was a defense mechanism, all that practicality, it was all just for show. It was all to protect myself from being hurt because I had lost so much already. So what I realized is that that's not really strength. Strength is when you allow people to come in and when you take the risk of being hurt because you've loved with all you have. And so getting to that point and then having that just go to the very end of that where I'm ready to sacrifice myself for everyone. So when I saw that script, I was so excited to dig in. And when I was in there, I was listening to One Day We Shall Be Free, which you see on the iPod. That's what I was actually listening to. And I really pulled from that song because that was why I was doing what I was doing, because I was hoping that it would make everybody free, right? I was hoping that I would take him out, and break this whole world down and have us be free because we had such a deep moral responsibility to redefine this world, now that there were only a few of us left. So I just dug in. I dug in to what it means to sacrifice yourself. Like, what does that really mean? When you say, I'm gonna go die for all of you guys, what does that mean, And so I had a good time. And it was really good for my faith as well. It really was. It enlightened me. It did. Which is what you hope all stories do for you as an artist.
Great, thank you. And we will see you on the sofa again.
We'll
right?
see.
Fingers crossed.